everyone, and welcome to another episode of my wedding planning series. Today I am excited to be here with one of my favorite cake designers in Ghana. I dare say the whole of Africa. Marmette and I have been working for close to a decade. She's made some of the most amazing cakes that just don't look good but also taste amazing. Marmette, thank you so much for choosing to join me.
Nice to be here with you.
So today we are talking about how to pick the perfect wedding cake designer and possibly share some of our do's and don'ts for picking your wedding cake. You want to stay till the very end of this video because we have a surprise for you. I can't wait to try all of these cakes. I am going to try to see if I can do a good job of guessing what cakes we have here.
This is actually coconut, and then this is rum raisin.
Rum raisin?
Yes.
Ooh, that sounds exciting. So tell me, if I was, having my own wedding and I wanted a beautiful cake for the wedding, what are some of the things that I need to think about?
Well, to start with, you need to have an idea how much you want to spend. I know that tends to be difficult for a lot of people because they don't know anything about cakes. You have to think about it and say, how much would be the maximum that I can spend on this to make me happy? And that kind of starts to define who your vendor will be, because different vendors have different price points. If 500 Ghana cedis is the maximum that you're willing to go on your cake, then you might have to go to vendor A or vendor B. A lot of people call in and they don't know how much they want to spend, and then it becomes a little difficult to move from there. But once you have an idea, then you can move on to the next stage, which usually comes to the sizes of the cake. So this will be a typical 5-tier cake, and that's how it works. You can have the first 2, the second 2 or 3. It's just really, again, about how much you want to spend on the cake. Each of this is a tier. So this is 1 tier, 2 tier, 3, 4, 5. Yes. So from the budget, we can decide how many tiers you want to have. However, your venue actually also dictates the number of tiers. If you have a venue with very tall ceilings, you can't have a 2-tier cake. The cake is going to look really tiny, it won't make an impression. So that I would usually advise you against that. The Comfort Center is a good example of such a venue.
Yes.
Where you do a cake.
It's like a double room.
Exactly.
Right?
So for Comfort Center, you're going to have to think of 4 tiers and up. You're going to have to do a 4-tier cake, 5, 6, because you need the drama for your cake to stand out. If you're doing a home event, you can get away with a 2-tier cake. So that also starts to mold what you can have. So after we come up with the number of tiers, you're going to start looking at the design. And that is really about preference. What makes you happy, what's going to excite you when you walk into your reception hall that day, and how your colors will work together. Someone would have a rainbow colored wedding, but they just want a white cake. Someone might have a white decor setup, but they want a rainbow colored cake.
If I came in and I told you that my husband is crazy about Batman, and I was having my wedding and I wanted a cake that looks like Batman, would you make that for me, or would you try to talk me out of it?
Now that's a good one. So we have these double-sided cakes. So in a case like that, you can have a double-sided cake. So both of you are happy. On one side, it will be a Batman cake, and the other side will be a traditional wedding cake.
Okay.
Or you can have a groom's cake, which is also, it's not common in Ghana, but it's something that's definitely done. You have your traditional wedding cake there, and then you have a cake for the groom. So that's also another way to make both parties happy.
Okay. And I think that when it comes to pricing, one of the things that comes to mind is, it is true what they say, good cake isn't cheap.
No, it's
cheap
not.
Cake isn't good. So you have to have an idea of what the average, and I know that the average 3-tier cake is about 2K. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct. That's kind of the minimum that you can expect.
And that's cedis.
Yes, 2,000 Ghana cedis. That would be for a 6-inch, an 8-inch, and a 10-inch. That's the minimum that you're going to spend, and that will go up. It won't go lower, it will go up depending on a couple of factors like your flavors. some flavors like the rum raisin is more expensive than red velvet.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because the raisin and the rum is expensive, so that increases your price. So the flavors you pick will change the price of your cake and the design. You know, when we start to have a lot of gold elements on the cake, edible gold is just as expensive as real gold. We call it liquid gold. Like liquid cocaine. It's so expensive, and you know, in Ghana we like gold. So you have all these wedding cakes with a lot of gold elements. So that definitely factors into the cake price. Generally, on average here, most 3-tier cakes will be about 2,500 Ghana cedis, and that would include your setup and delivery.
Okay.
But by setup, most people confuse this. By setup, I don't mean like coming to do your cake table and decorating it. By setup, I mean bringing the cake stand, putting your cake on it, making sure that you have a nice set. I provide those as part of my cost.
Okay.
So that's usually...
That's rented, right? So
well, no, my cake knife is actually part of the cake cost, yes.
Nice.
The stand you have to return, but the cake knife is part of the cost, yes.
Okay.
And that's how different cake companies differ. You know, you might get someone who will quote 2,500, but you have to pay rental fees for the stand, you have to pay rental fees for the knife, you have to pay delivery, and then that starts to add to the price. But for me, I tend to make it just one price, and then it caters for everything.
What is the most expensive cake that you have ever made?
The most expensive wedding cake I've ever made was 10,000 Ghana cedis.
10,000 Ghana cedis, guys! What goes into a 10,000 Ghana cedi cake?
And believe it or not, it was not all cake.
Oh, wow! How many tiers?
It was a 6-tier cake, but it had a lot of floral work.
Right.
And a lot of sugar floral work, and those take a lot of time and material. So, I mean, we were working on the flowers for about 2 months just to get enough flowers for it.
That's
yes, exactly. So the labor cost tends to factor. You know, you see all these beautiful wedding cakes, especially when you look at Lebanese weddings, and they come and they're like, I want this wedding cake, but yes, you can have it, but it's going to cost you. And as much as I like to make those things, I also like for brides to kind of watch how much they spend on wedding cakes or the wedding in general. So I tend to be the wedding cake
counselor.
I would advise them like, well, we can do this. It would be nice. You can do a 4-tier. It would be nice to serve its purpose. Everybody will be happy. Your wedding will look pretty without you breaking the bank. You know, it's good to stay on a budget sometimes.
Yeah. I would love to meet a wedding cake counselor. I don't think anybody's doing that. That sounds like an interesting job. But yeah, I'm sure that most couples will appreciate that. Okay, let's make it specifically about wedding cakes. There are 2 people.
Yeah.
So there's the couple who are like, you know what? Just get me a wedding cake. I just want a nice 3-tier wedding cake, and you know, they're not really bothered.
Yeah.
They just want to cut a cake.
Yeah.
And then there's the other couple who want to know everything that goes inside of the cake, are so specific.
Yeah.
Want to know every detail, how much, you know, floral work is going to go on the cake and things like that. But I think that ultimately the most important thing is that your cake doesn't just sit pretty, but it also tastes good.
Yes.
What are some of the things that, you know, we need to look out for when we're choosing? Because I really don't want anybody coming in and saying, oh, that was a really beautiful cake, but it was the driest cake I have ever tasted.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that we should be mindful of when we're picking a cake?
You know, wedding cakes were traditionally the fruit cake that you bake it 2 months before the wedding and you soak it over and over with rum. And we've tended to move away from that practice now. We have sponge cakes, which are very edible. Everybody can enjoy it. And well, they're meant to be eaten, not to be displayed. So that also comes with setting I would say, problems. You can't have it sitting there for years. You can't have it displayed out in the sun and all those aspects of it. But the critical thing for having a wedding cake that tastes nice is about what goes into it. You have your flavor, the flavors that you want, but then you also have to think about the icing types. You know, different bakers use different icing types, the different qualities of icing. Some people use butter that tends to melt faster, and then there's those that use shortening. Shortening doesn't melt as fast, but it doesn't taste as good. So you start to weigh that. What matters to you more? Do you want your cake to just sit pretty, or do you want to be able to eat your cake? You know. But here we do a buttercream. You know, it's really soft. It's made with actual butter. Yes, you can.
I'm dying to try it.
And it's really good. So we have this in between your layers. You know, you see it here. You see the buttercream between the red velvet layers. You see it here, and that makes it edible.
I've been dying to do this.
And they're really soft.
Talking, I'm just gonna stop my face.
You know,
and I'll give you my review in a minute.
That also tends to affect how high you can go. You know, if you have cake that's this soft, you can't put that much pressure on it. So the higher you go, the more delicate the structure begins to get. So when you want an 8-tier cake, you're going to have to understand that your cake isn't going to taste as nice, because we have to make a very dense cake for it to take up all that pressure. You know, so that affects it. But after we use the buttercream in between the layers, we cover the entire cake with buttercream. Then we cover it with fondant. So when we say fondant, this is what we mean. It's like a sticky, doughy icing.
It looks like Play-Doh.
It is essentially Play-Doh, but edible. No, it's edible. This is all sugar. It's made from sugar and glucose, and it's a whole formula. But you put it on, we roll it out flat into sheets, and then we cover the cake with it. If it's an outdoor wedding, after we do the layer of buttercream, we add some chocolate ganache. So chocolate ganache is essentially, yes, chocolate ganache is essentially chocolate, dark chocolate that we melt along with some other things, but it's a whole it's a whole
No, we're not trying to review all of the things.
Yeah.
We just want you to know what to look out for.
Yeah. So we put this on, we coat the entire cake with chocolate ganache, and that is more stable than buttercream.
Okay.
It doesn't melt as easily, it can take the heat better, and those all affect the cost of the cake, you know. So if you have a baker that is using just buttercream that's made with shortening, her cake is definitely going to be cheaper than mine, where I'm using buttercream with actual butter, and then I'm covering with chocolate ganache before I'm covering with your fondant, you know. So all those start to affect the price. It's not just about contacting the baker and asking how much are your cakes. You need to inquire a bit more, like what goes into the cake, how tall are your tiers, because I can have a 2-tier cake with each tier being about 3 inches. You call me, I say, oh, my 3-tier cake is 2,500, but my tiers are 6 inches tall. So all of that affects the price. And that is something that you have to be aware of when you're calling your baker.
Okay. Okay. What are some of the most popular flavors?
Well, well, you know, funny enough, this is Ghana, so people like to be safe. Yes.
Oh,
how did you know? Boring vanilla. And I tell them, when they say I want vanilla, I'm like, that's boring. Let's be adventurous.
Do some confetti.
Yeah.
Something.
And I have 18 different flavors. And then people come, they look through the whole list and say, can I have red velvet, vanilla, and chocolate? and some of them I'm like, no. Let's do this. We typically have tastings that come with our wedding cake consultations. So when you call and we find out certain things like the date of your wedding, your venue, whether it's outdoor or indoor, and your budget, After that, we go on to schedule the cake tasting and consultation. We typically charge for that only because we had so many people coming in for it and never. Yes, essentially. So it's just a way of kind of not making a loss. But when you do place the order, we refund it. So we deduct that from the total cost of your cake. Yes. So you come in, we try to give you at least 8 flavors to taste. Then you can kind of move away from the vanilla and chocolate. Hopefully. Yes, hopefully. And then during that time, we put together a sketch of your cake, see examples of what you like. Some people want pearls, some want flowers, some want geometric shapes. So that's during the consultation. I get to meet you and know a little bit more about what you like, your taste.
But yeah, I think that one of the things that really has drawn me to you, I think the very first day that we met, you did actually sketch a cake.
Yes.
And I found that so interesting. It was like, going to a fashion designer shop. She sketched a cake, and I can't draw, so anybody who draws is like God to me. And I have a little book. So intriguing. Yeah.
I have a little book for wedding cake consultations. When they come in, I bring you the book. There's a sketch pad on one side. There's a little picture. I brought it here today. And then I just do a sketch just to have a sense of what you want. Later on, I color it in and then I send it to you so that you're sure of what you want. And then we can move on from there.
Should we expect this from every designer?
Well, no,
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Not everybody wants to draw. I just enjoy doing that, and I also like for both of us to understand what you're getting so that there are no surprises on the day. I mean, the sketches are not always 100% representation of what you're going to get.
When I'm looking to choose a wedding cake designer, what are some of the things that I should be looking out for?
Well, you have to be aware of what you want. If you're doing a full buttercream cake for an outdoor event, that rules me out as a wedding cake vendor.
You don't
because yes, I think outdoor in Ghana is really hot and very humid. So I worry about having buttercream outside at those temperatures. There are a couple of bakers that are completely comfortable with it. They have formulas that work for that. And so then that would be the person you're going to, If you want a more traditional look, then I'll be there for you. Depending on what flavors you want, also factor into your vendor, because different vendors offer different flavors and quality of the cake. Some are more spongy than others. All of that kind of determines who your vendor will be. Also, the kind of dramatics you want with your cake, that factors into who you want. And generally also just, everybody has a style. No matter how much you try to move away from it, at the end of the day, when I see a cake from person A, I know that person A made it. If I see it from person B, I can tell. And so it depends on the style that you vibe with, I like vivid, bright colors. Even when I do pastels, you can see that Marmette did this because there's still some brightness in the pastel. Like it's pastel, but it's bright. So it's just about that. It's also about the level of neatness that you want. Sharp edges. Some people prefer rounded edges. Some people prefer sharp edges. So all of that determines who your baker is going to be.
And I think that one of the important things as well is to work with a designer whose personality matches with yours. Because I think that the cake plays such a vital role in the overall landscape of the design, unless perhaps you're choosing a wedding planner. I mean, if your wedding planner is acting on your behalf, then chances are we've worked with cake designers for years, so we can tell you, okay, for what you're looking for, I feel Kakes N Bakes will be the best person for you, or I feel this person will be the best person for you. But if you don't have a wedding planner, which I don't understand, why don't you have a wedding planner? But if you don't have a wedding planner, then yes, I recommend that sit in a consultation and get a feel of their personality also.
Yes. You know, you have some brides that will tell you, oh, bring in the cake at 12. And they know that they're telling you 12 and the wedding starts at 4. Now, this is a fight I have with so many brides. I'm like, when they give me the time.
Did you all see the shade like flying across?
Oh, it's a big problem because you're gonna have melting issues, you know. So I ask, is 12 when you're gonna walk through the reception door, or 12 when you're gonna walk to the car to go to the church? That's really important because you're gonna get to the venue at 12. The ACs will be off. The decor is not done. And you have this delicate cake that you have to mount. So, you know, those are details that you shouldn't keep away from your baker. If you're using a baker that doesn't show up on time, then that's a different story.
I think that for a lot of people, you know, even planners sometimes do that. I mean, I'll be the first to raise up my hand and say, I usually will give my vendors about an hour ahead because we're just anxious. We just want everything to flow seamlessly and perfect. I mean, there's nothing like a perfect wedding, but we want to try as much as possible to have it look perfect.
But that's when the planner is important, because if there's a planner, you can even call in and say, oh, we are ready for you to bring the cake now.
Yes. But are there any other do's and don'ts that you will say that we should look out for?
Yes, I think it's like honesty in the whole process is really important in terms of your expectations and in terms of the venue. You know, if you know it's an outdoor venue, don't tell me it's indoor. Don't say that, oh, like usually I would tell people I don't do outdoor weddings. So there are a couple of people who will be like, oh, there's a room, it's indoor. Oh, there's a room right there that you can keep the cake in, you know, and then I get there and there isn't. So we are sitting in the car for 2 hours with the AC on, you know. It's important to have an open, honest. If you tell me there are ways around it, I can ask you that, or let your planner call me and we'll bring the cake just before you need it, you know. So I think honesty is important. If there's also a need to like, you have to let the baker understand what problems. If you have a budget, you really want this baker, but they're above your budget, there are ways you can reduce the cost. I mean, I typically do 6-inch tiers that are really tall. You can reduce that to 4 inches and it still look good, but it's just a matter of telling me. If you don't tell me that you have a problem with the price, I'm going to assume that you decide not to go with me for other reasons, you know. So you have to try and explain to your baker what it is that you want.
Okay. And I understand that even with the tiers, sometimes you can use fake.
Yes.
Like you can put in styrofoam and things like that.
You can, and you would never know. People are so anxious about, oh no, the cake would be fake. It doesn't matter. Nobody would know. I sometimes have a hard time telling cakes that I made years later when I'm looking at the picture. I'm like, was this all real? It's not hard, it's impossible to tell. So we use this material to do the fake tiers. And so you can have a cake with mixed, some can be real, some can be fake. Usually I tend to advise that the bottom tier is always real because that's the one you cut.
Yeah.
Even then, I've done an entirely fake wedding cake for my friend, and it was just the area that they will cut that had cake. I'm telling you.
Do they just not like cake?
Well, no. In that case, she wanted to give everybody really big slices of cake, so we pre-boxed these really huge slices of cake for everybody. And because you know sometimes it gets so chaotic at the wedding and then it's not served. So that's a way to ensure that your cake is served. Everybody has a really big slice. So we did that, so there wasn't a need to have the cake. Yeah, that reduces the cost, not by a large margin, but it definitely makes a difference. You know, a 3-tier cake that has the top 2 being fake and this being real would be about 1,500 Ghana cedis instead of 2,500 Ghana cedis. So that's 1,000 Ghana cedi difference. If you don't intend to share the cake, then it's fine, you know, and that would totally work for you. I love fake wedding cakes.
Because you can get adventurous, right?
Yes, you can do anything with them, and they are so easy to work with. You can decorate it ahead of time, and that's why I tend to reduce the cost for couples too when it's styrofoam, because you can do it ahead of time. I can do it a week ahead of time and it's fine. But if it's real cake, I have to work on it the day of your wedding.
So it's fresh.
Yes, because I need it to be fresh. I mean, there are some bakers that would work on wedding cakes a week before, 3 days before. I prefer to do mine on the day. I want it to be fresh. I don't want any accidents. So it's just how I make sure that everything goes well. Yeah.
And I think you can tell. You can tell when a cake has just been freshly made, and you can tell when it's been sitting for a while.
Yes.
And you really don't want it sitting for a while.
Yes, the colors start to fade. You know, you have a lot of problems when it sits for a while.
Yeah. Ooh, this has been such an interesting conversation, and I have even learned a lot from this discussion. Now, I did say at the beginning of the video that we were going to give you a surprise. So Marmette has agreed that you can pick up a tray of cupcakes, and the way to do this is just to comment below. So if you like this video and you found it informative, remember to give us a thumbs up to show us some encouragement. But more importantly, if you want to win a tray of cupcakes from Kakes N Bakes, comment below, tell us what your favorite flavors are, and we will randomly pick 2 people to pick a tray of cake each from Kakes N Bakes. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to hit the subscribe button below, as well as the notifications bell, so that you receive an alert whenever there's a new video. I will be back same time next week. Bye-bye.